I keep reading articles and seeing videos how Kenny Pickett got revenge on Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers by winning a Super Bowl. I mean, it's an absolute joke when I hear this, see these types of videos and articles. Kenny Pickett played one down for the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl, and that's when Jalen Hurts waved him in and said, Kenny, I'm going to have a beer right now. Take a knee. That's Kenny Pickett's contribution to the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl victory. And this was the best decision that Mike Tomlin has ever made in his entire Pittsburgh Steeler career, was saying goodbye to Kenny Pickett. The same Kenny Pickett that was outraged and in his feelings because Mike Tomlin told him, hey, we're going to bring in some competition for the job. You're going to have to beat these guys out if you want to be the quarterback. And Kenny Pickett cried and whined and said the Steelers lied to him and I didn't feel appreciated. Really? Really, Kenny? A lot of the NFL players get on my nerves from time to time with their diva attitudes and things that they do and say, and it's all about me, etc. But no attitude drives me more crazier, makes me despise you more than an NFL player not willing to compete for his job. Kenny Pickett got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, an organization known for its toughness and blue-collar work ethic. And you think, first of all, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers handed you the keys to the Ferrari. They wanted you to be better than Big Ben and Terry Bradshaw. They wanted you to be that guy. And you couldn't do it. You've proved time and time again you weren't that guy. So right before you departed Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin told you, we're bringing in competition. You're going to have to work for your job. You're going to have to beat these guys out. And what did Kenny Pickett do? He showed his true colors. His spoiled brat, fragile softness. He's soft. That's what Kenny Pickett is. Let's look at Kenny Pickett's injury history from college and in the NFL. September 21st, 2019, shoulder unspecified injury, grade 1. Pickett suffered a shoulder injury during the game against UCF. He missed the next game. Go figure. They couldn't really pinpoint what it was, but he missed 2 games because of it. I wouldn't expect anything different. October 10th, 2020, non-NFL college injury. Pedal ankle sprain, grade 2. Pickett injured his left ankle during the overtime loss at Boston College. He missed 2 games. Now, this was the first time that Kenny Pickett got injured in the NFL. October 16th, 2022. A head cranial concussion, grade 1. Pickett went down in week 6 versus Tampa Bay. You know what a grade 1 concussion is? If I took this pen right now and went like this to my head and they flashed a flashlight in my eyes, they would say I had a concussion. Then December 11th, 2022, head cranial concussion, grade 1. Pickett was concussed early in the first quarter against Baltimore. Of course he was, because he was afraid for his life against the Baltimore Ravens, a physical team. Now this is where it really gets interesting. I love these. October 11th, 2023. Leg shin bruise, grade 1. Pickett sustained a bone bruise in his week 4. In week 4 versus the Texans, he was able to suit up the following game versus the Ravens. The guy had a leg bruise. And it was so bad that he was able to somehow, some way play the next game. Go figure. Then the October 29th, 2023, a chest rib bruise, grade 1. Pickett sustained a rib injury near the end of the first half of week 8 versus the Jaguars. He's missing games with bruises. A bruise. Not a broken bone, not a sprain. Bruises. December 3rd, 2023. Pedal ankle high sprain, grade 3. Pickett suffered a high ankle injury late in the first half of week 13 versus the Cardinals. He underwent surgery the following day. Okay, so this is grade 3, which is kind of serious. Everything up until this point has been grade 1. Your mother gets a grade 1 ankle sprain when she goes grocery shopping and accidentally puts her foot on the step the wrong way. December 29th, 2024, chest rib fracture, grade 1. Pickett was forced to leave in the Week 17 contest against the Cowboys due to a rib injury. All of this injury history besides one injury were grade 1s. meaning you can play. But Kenny Pickett chose not to play because he's soft physically and soft mentally. Now, I know Terry Bradshaw and some of the Pittsburgh insiders love him because, Kenny Pickett loves country music and he looks the part and etc. Well, too bad he didn't play the part. Too bad he didn't have the ruggedness of a cowboy and, a real Steeler. Like the country music singers that he goes and listens to, being a rugged man, riding the horse on the farm. Well, where's Kenny Pickett's ruggedness? Because he sure doesn't have any. I mean, when Kenny Pickett takes shots at the Steelers, well, that's when certain guys show up to work. Hey, Kenny, even if George Pickens or whoever didn't show up for work, there's other receivers, other tight ends, and you could still work on your craft. You have a built-in excuse for everything. You have a built-in excuse for your mental fragility. You have a built-in excuse for your physical fragility. And all Mike Tomlin does is take negative criticism. Well, for once, let's give him some positive criticism. Getting rid of Kenny Pickett. And I heard from a reliable source that a lot of the defenders in the locker room at the time didn't like Kenny Pickett. And why is that? I'm sure they could care less about his personality. I'm sure the majority of them could care less what music he listens to, what ethnicity he is, all that garbage. You know why they didn't like Kenny Pickett? Because he was soft and he was entitled and he had a shitty spoiled brat attitude. So they didn't like him. They didn't warm up to him. I'm not going to get involved in who told me that information, but it's somebody super close to Kenny Pickett. Super close. Let's look at Kenny Pickett's abysmal stats when he was a Pittsburgh Steeler. In 2022, he played 13 games. Of course, he missed 4 games. Go figure. Brittle, fragile Kenny Pickett. He had 245 completions on 389 attempts. Completion rate was 63%. For 2,404 yards, he averaged 6.2 yards a pass. In 13 games, he had 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, and he was sacked 27 times. 7 touchdowns. He's playing with the best offensive line he's ever played with in his career, the best receivers he's ever played with, the best running backs, and he has 7 touchdowns and 9 picks. There's high school players that could have put up better numbers. Literally. In 2023, Pickett also missed 4 to 5 games. He only played 12 games. He had 324 attempts, 201 completions. Completion rate was 62%. He threw for 2,070 yards, averaged 6.4 yards a reception or throw. He had 6 touchdowns and 4 picks. And he was sacked 23 times. So in his 2-year career, he was sacked 50 times, had 13 touchdowns, and 13 picks. And Kenny Pickett, in his fragile mind, doesn't think that the Steelers organization should bring in competition for him to win the job, that he should just be handed the job. And Terry Bradshaw and all the Pittsburgh media, there's a lot of Pittsburgh media that makes a big deal about Kenny Pickett being let go by Mike Tomlin. Like, are you effing kidding me? You got to be joking. So not only was his play abysmal, horrible, that attitude, that it should be handed to him, that he shouldn't have to compete for it. You lied to me. Oh my God, it makes me sick. He makes me sick. It's like a little woman. Thank God he's not a Steeler anymore. This is one of the best decisions that Tomlin's ever made. And let's look at all of Mike Tomlin's draft picks, and then we'll get to Kenny Pickett when he was drafted. And every single one of those draft picks brought more value to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett was the worst first-round draft pick by Mike Tomlin out of all his draft picks, and that includes Artie Burns. In 2007, Tomlin drafted Lawrence Timmons. In 2008, Rashard Mendenhall. In 2009, Evander Hood, Ziggy Hood. In 2010, Marquise Pouncey. In 2011, Cam Hayward. In 2012, David DeCastro. In 2013, Jarvis Jones. In 2014, Ryan Shazier. In 2015, Bud Dupree. In 2016, Artie Burns. In 2017, TJ Watt. In 2018, Terrell Edmonds. In 2019, Devin Bush. In 2020, they didn't have a first-round pick, the Steelers. In 2021, Najee Harris. In 2022, Kenny Pickett. 2023, Broderick Jones. And 2024, Troy Fontanano. Now, obviously, Troy Fontanano hasn't played, but a lot of people will say, Terrell Edmonds brought more value to the Steelers than Kenny Pickett. Absolutely. Yes, he did. So did Artie Burns. Every single one of these first-round draft picks by Mike Tomlin brought more value to the Pittsburgh Steelers than Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett is the biggest bust under the Tomlin era out of every single pick. And when you miss on a quarterback, it sets the organization back 5 to 10 years when you miss on a first-round draft pick in the NFL as a quarterback. It's the hardest position to get right. It's not like a linebacker, receiver, running back. You can replace those guys. If you miss on a quarterback, it almost destroys your organization for a long period of time. So this whole, and Kenny, let me tell you, when Kenny Pickett pulled that little meltdown, that little diva entitled meltdown, and Mike Tomlin said, you know what, you're out of here. That happened fast. Kenny Pickett was out of there with quickness because I know for a fact, watching Mike Tomlin, analyzing him, that there's one thing that he can't stand, and that's a guy that's not willing to compete for it.